The end of 2024 brought a terrible event to South Korea. On December 29, Jeju Air Flight 2216 crashed while landing at Muan International Airport. The plane, a Boeing 737-800 traveling from Bangkok, had a tragic accident. Sadly, 179 people lost their lives, leaving only 2 crew members alive. This is the worst plane crash in South Korea's history, making everyone in the country very sad. This accident shocked both South Korea and the world. Losing so many people so suddenly reminds us of the dangers of flying. While investigators are working hard to understand what happened, everyone is waiting for answers. This event makes us think about how fragile life is and how important flight safety is. Figuring out why Flight 2216 crashed is very important. It helps us understand this accident and learn how to stop similar events from happening again. Airlines, people who make safety rules, and everyone involved in flying must work together to make sure this never happens again. Remembering those we lost encourages us to make flying as safe as possible. Jeju Air Flight 2216 started its trip in Bangkok with 175 passengers and 6 crew members. Everything seemed normal until the plane got close to Muan International Airport. The pilots made a mayday call saying a bird had hit the plane while they were landing. This is a known danger when flying, and it became a major factor in this terrible event. Even though the bird hit the plane, the pilots tried to land, but they had to abort and go around for another try. This is normal in these situations, but it made things even more difficult. During the second try, the worst happened. For reasons we don't fully understand yet, the plane went past the runway. It hit a barrier, causing a big impact that shook the plane and horrified people watching from the ground. The plane, broken and on fire, stopped moving. A sad end for Flight 2216. Right after the crash, emergency teams rushed to help. They worked bravely, but the situation was devastating. Only 2 crew members survived. Now the focus is on figuring out what went wrong. A team of investigators from South Korea, the United States, and Boeing are at the crash site. Their job is to carefully put together what happened. The black boxes, which record flight data and cockpit voices, are very important to the investigation. They were found in the wreckage, but both were damaged, making things harder for investigators. The investigation will take a long time and require careful examination of all the evidence. The world is watching as investigators work to find answers that might prevent this from happening again. The crash of Jeju Air Flight 2216 brought great sadness to South Korea. Losing 179 people, many of whom were coming home, deeply affected the nation. Everyone felt the loss immediately. Acting President Choi Sang-mok declared 7 days of national mourning to show how terrible the tragedy was. Flags were lowered as the country dealt with the immense loss. The government promised to help the families of the victims by providing funeral services, places to live, and counseling. The crash also made people question airline safety. The government promised to carefully examine the system and make changes to fix any problems. This tragedy reminded everyone how important strong safety rules are for flying. Now the whole country is talking about how to prevent these accidents in the future. The crash of Flight 2216 greatly affected Jeju Air. As a low-cost airline with only Boeing planes, they were known for being affordable. However, this tragedy put them in a difficult position, with everyone looking closely at how they operate and their safety record. Immediately after the crash, Jeju Air showed they were sorry and wanted to be honest. They changed their website logo to black to honor the victims. CEO Kim Lee spoke to the nation, apologized, and took responsibility for the accident. The airline also took action. They canceled many flights, showing they were dealing with the situation and focusing on the investigation and helping the victims' families. The company has a lot of work to do to regain the trust of people who fly. The crash of Jeju Air Flight 2216, while tragic, is sadly not the only one in aviation history. It reminds us of other terrible plane crashes, each one a sad lesson that the industry remembers. The crash of Muan Air Flight 610 in 2018, also a Boeing 737, is very similar to the Jeju Air crash. Both involved newer planes, both had technical problems, and both resulted in many deaths. These similarities show how important it is to learn from past mistakes and make sure safety rules are always reviewed and improved. The aviation industry has a long history of trying to be safe. Every tragedy, while awful, has also led to changes. The investigation into the Jeju air crash will surely teach us valuable lessons that can help make flying safer for everyone. Bird strikes are a known problem in aviation, but people often think they're not serious. However, the Jeju Air Flight 2216 tragedy shows that bird strikes can be deadly. Birds, especially in large groups, are dangerous for planes, particularly during takeoff and landing. When a bird hits a plane, it can damage engines, windows, and other important parts, potentially causing a crash. While modern planes are built to withstand bird strikes to some extent, how bad the impact is depends on the bird's size, the plane's speed, and where the bird hits. The Jeju air crash shows that we need to keep researching and developing new technologies and strategies to reduce the dangers of bird strikes. The crash of Jeju Air Flight 2216 is a tragedy that has deeply affected the aviation world. As the investigation continues, we must learn from this disaster to prevent similar events from happening again. One important lesson is how crucial strong pilot training is. Pilots often face unexpected situations, and their ability to stay calm and act correctly is vital. The investigation will help us understand what the pilots did in the final moments of the flight, potentially revealing areas where training can be improved. Also, the crash shows that we need to keep making planes safer. While modern aircraft have advanced safety systems, there's always room for improvement. The investigation might find weaknesses in the Boeing 737, 800's design or systems that need to be fixed to make it safer. As we remember those lost on Jeju Air Flight 2216, we must focus on preventing such tragedies in the future. The investigation's findings will be very important in forming recommendations to improve aviation safety. One area that needs attention is using better systems at airports to detect and prevent bird strikes. While some airports have these systems, they don't always work well, and we need to use the latest technologies to reduce the risk of bird strikes. Another important step is to improve pilot training programs. Pilots should practice realistic simulations of emergencies, like bird strikes and landing gear problems. By experiencing these situations in training, they'll be better prepared if they happen in real life. Finally, this tragedy shows how important it is for countries to work together on aviation safety, sharing information, best practices, and investigation.